Hello, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Brainwash Broke series. We have another amazing guest for today. We will be talking about a really interesting topics when it comes to brainwashing stories, patterns, and different version of programming that we've been literally taught since our young age. But this person is really interesting because he is in the relationship type of space, right? There are lots of things that we're gonna be covering when it comes to parental punishing. Also, mindset. He wrote a couple of books, and actually, he wrote one book, and he's working on another one. So that's really interesting. There are lots of things that we're going to be covering. And make sure that his light's going to be shared in front of other people and see what great insights he will be able to bring in here. So I'm super pumped to have him here. And welcome to the show, Jeremy Roadruck. What's up, brother?
Yeah, Adam, thank you. It's awesome to be here.
Amazing. All right, so let's start right from the beginning. For those who don't know you and don't know your background, how did you get into entrepreneurship and so on? So let's start with that, and then we can dive into more specific topics and so on. So we have and getting to the more meaningful conversation when it comes to changing life and so on.
Fantastic. Well, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever this finds you. I hope you are having a fantastic day. And if you're not, frickin' make it one, right? Just decide what would make it more better and go do some of that. My name is Jeremy Roadruck. I am the only me on the internet. Makes me super easy to find. And I have been in the space of helping people for about 30 some years. And I've worked with people from 3 years old to 95 years old, 94 years old, in a variety of skill sets. And what got me here is honestly, first I was born, which was already kind of cool because I was pregnancy 8 of 10, but only two of us made it to actually be born. So I was pregnancy number 7. My brother was pregnancy number 4. So you would think with parents who had to work really hard to get a child, super overprotective, but no. My parents had a goal for my brother and I. They had two values they wanted, which was make our own decisions and live with the consequences, which meant they got to let us decide stuff and mess up and learn. And they were always there to support us and encourage us and pick us back up. But a lot of it was like self-directed impact, self-directed lessons. And unfortunately, I had some bad things happen outside of the home at 5 and 6 years old that took me sideways for a very long time. A lot of anger, a lot of I can't trust adults, I can't trust kids. And I noticed people say one thing and they mean a second thing, but then they do a third thing. And I couldn't figure out what's going on and why. And I can't trust kids, I can't trust adults. So I've got to figure this out on my own. And then the last piece of this adventure was at 7 years old, playing tic tac toe. Some part of me believes if I lose, I'm going to die. So now, huge amount of energy and intensity to everything because everything feels life and death. No idea how to explain it at that point. I didn't know I had deleted the abuse for a very long time. I just knew I wasn't safe and I couldn't trust anyone. And that's kind of my normal growing up, but also very observant, very intelligent. I realized I'm scaring everybody. I'm scaring the kids because I'm so intense. So I learned to back off. And I became a mimic and I became a chameleon. And I began to study what are people doing? What's driving them? Why are they doing it? And I was doing cross-cultural studies, cross-cultural religious studies. We were a military family, so I grew up in Turkey and Saudi Arabia, and I visited like Spain and Italy and Germany, and we had been to Thailand. And so I had seen, by 8 years old, I had seen a very large portion of the world and lots of different ways to live. So I was exposed to a lot of different ways that things could be, a lot of potential, and I began to build. And then in my 20s, I started martial arts. And that was the thing that put me back together because it doesn't matter how intellectually dominant you think you are. When you walk into a room and everybody can just like knock you down and stand on your head, it humbles you fast. And it humbled me fast. And it helped me put myself back together and really bring my body, my mind, my emotions into unity again and have a place where I could experiment. And the problem kids, the kids that the adults always had trouble with, I had a natural affinity for because I didn't come in from positional authority. I never said because I say so. It was always, that's interesting
Mhm.
because they had a way of doing things. And what if there was a way to do it easier? Would you be interested? And so it was a lot of consensual teaching, a lot of consensual leadership, and aligning vision and values. So I became what John Maxwell calls an influential leader at a very young age in my career. And so by 20, I was like taking martial arts. That was in March. By May, I was helping with classes. Like I was leading, warming the class up. Like I was involved, and it was like a duck to water. I was so excited to do like everything. And then 8 years later, I started my own school and I ran that for about 17 and a half years. And then with COVID and my daughter being born, and like I really wanted to be involved in her life. And just, I love my school and I love teaching martial arts. I didn't love running a martial arts school. I didn't love the sales. I didn't love the fighting with the parents to really understand what we were doing. Because for a lot of them, this is just an activity. It's something for my kid to do. And I'm like, no, this is going to change their whole entire life and we can help them get money for college and we can. And so I was like way outpacing people. And so when COVID happened, it was kind of a blessing, kind of hurt, but it was a blessing because it let me get more into the space I'm in now, which is I was doing martial arts, I was doing parenting, and now I'm consulting with mostly high-powered men that are like crushing it in business, but they're struggling with their kids, they're struggling in their marriage, they're struggling with themselves. As like, cool, let's clean all that stuff up because there's reasons for, and we don't need to use fault and blame and guilt and shame. We don't need to punish. Where is life? Where is love? Where is your life and your legacy at the highest levels? Cool. Let's go build that and then reverse engineer the mechanisms to take you from where you are to where you want to be. And then if we can do that fast, is that okay with you? Like if we could do this in 10 minutes, is that cool? Or would you prefer I drag it out for 10 months? Right? Your choice. Like I had a client recently that was in a sexless marriage for 2 years, and we fixed that in one conversation. I talked to him on Wednesday. I talked to him on Sunday. They were back in bed on Wednesday,
Mhm.
and I've got a clip 6 months later where he was watching a thunderstorm in the backyard. His wife comes out and she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, the kids are home." And he's like, okay, why's that?" "Well, if the kids weren't home, I'd be making love to you on that table in the storm right now."
Mhm.
So from sexless marriage to now 6 months later, she's pursuing him, and they've been married 19 years. They got 5 kids. So it was just he was approaching it a certain way, and she was coming at it a different way, and she didn't feel safe, and she was rejecting herself. So she can't receive you if she's making herself wrong. Here's how we change that. And she's not wrong for where she's at either. She feels what she feels. She's allowed, of course, but let's build from there, right? And so that's really the journey that I've been on is like, what if we could live no fault, no blame, no guilt, no shame, no self-sabotage, just ownership
Mhm.
and the ability to respond instead of react. How do we get there? And how do we get there quickly? It's a fun game.
Really cool. Yeah, I love it. Okay, so this is really interesting. And certain things that you mentioned, I pretty experienced, yeah, experienced something very, very similar, specifically with the childhood and so on. Um,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to my parents, they been like pretty much always working super hard, like three jobs. We've been
Mm-hmm.
like coming from a really poor background. I didn't even see them really, really often.
Mm-hmm.
And my like I usually or most of my time, like literally my grandparents raised me, so I was like one of those, like seeing what the world is like, how the world is basically fucked up. And but also when you said that you were seventh of 10th, right? Yeah, so my parents figure out, probably before I've been born even, that they can't actually, my mother can't carry a girls. So
Oh,
there was a
wow.
bunch of like, I think I've been like second or third actually two or something, and
Mm.
we are two only. Me and my brother basically, and my brother is
Mm.
5 years younger than me. But that
Oh
was the
wow.
struggle there, and I don't even know if it's actually gonna, generational or something like that, because from even mother side, they like there is something like that. They didn't really. Well, that's either way. Um. So
No,
yeah, that was. I get
that's
it.
hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So but either way, like we can't really do anything about it in my opinion, right? But it's just like it's really interesting that how that even can happen. Like your body can resist. Anyways, like interesting. Well, from there, I love like how did you I don't know how personal that can be, but what did you experience in your childhood? Like what was the problem in your house or something that you mentioned, and then like do you think that that changed something inside of you, that the way that you operated or something like that? I don't know what was it because you didn't really go deeper into it, but I don't know if it's even like too personal
No,
or
it's
what, but yeah.
I'm good with it. So me personally, if you're familiar with Winnie the Pooh, I'm a Tigger, and my
Mhm.
brother is an Eeyore. My brother can sit, or he's Charlie Brown. He will sit and he will watch the grass grow, and he's just content, and that's fine. And I'm bouncing off the walls. Like I used to, I would fall asleep standing up in my crib at as a baby. At 4 years old, we lived in Turkey. I climbed on the roof of the house. There was a fig tree in the backyard, and so I just figured out how to climb the roof. And my brother couldn't, and like I had to tell him. He was 8, and I had to tell him how to come get me because he's scared of heights, and I'm operationally fearless. So like I went up and then it was like, oh, you can't get me. I'm not gonna come down until you can come up here because you can't get me. And so that so that like he had to climb up and I had to tell him how to climb up and then he got up on the roof and I'm like, okay, you got me. And then I climbed down and then he can't climb down. And we didn't have a ladder because this is in the 70s and like,
Yeah.
military stuff and not everything was like super available. So then I had to tell him how to climb back down too.
Hmm.
And I climbed part of the way up to help him climb back down, like
Hmm.
helpful, but like you can't get me, but I'm gonna be helpful. So I had like this natural energy, it was super high, and my parents, like I never had a diagnosis, I never had medication. My parents just said you were an active child, like that was their answer.
Yeah.
And the abuse happened in Saudi. I went out past the complex that we were living in, which was the military stuff, and so it was one of the security guards actually abused me. And then when we came back to the US, it was a couple of kids up the street that abused me. And so it put me in a place where I can't trust kids, I can't trust adults. And my parents didn't know any of that happened actually until my mid 30s. That's when I finally, because the memories kind of went away for about 20 years. So about mid to late 20s, things started to come back and the pieces started to come back. Because just so you guys know, right? A lot of times when we go through things we don't know how to process, right?
Hmm.
We will either make up a story or we will suppress it, and our unconscious takes it away from us. And so there's always this feeling of like something's not right, something's wrong. I can't quite put my can't quite like I can't. And
Hmm.
then as we gain more strength, more intelligence, more capacity, more capability, as we learn new skills, our unconscious will start to like take that information and be like, hey, there's this thing that happened. And then if we freak out about it, the unconscious goes, oh, my bad, and takes it away again. But if we're actually ready to process it, we get the stuff to start. Then we begin to work with it and deal with it. We begin to understand it and go, oh, okay. And as you're doing that inner work, the way you know you're making progress is as you move towards the ability to talk about the thing that happened in the positive and about yourself and for the future. That's moving more towards integration. That's more towards healing. Because when you can fully talk about it all three at once, it's gone, right? I know for a fact that if I hadn't had those things happen and take me sideways, I was so positive and so energetic and so full of light I would have been useless because I wouldn't understand why do people get angry? Why do they suffer? Why do they struggle? Because at 5 and 6 years old, I was such a positive, creative, playful person. And Do I wish anyone else to do what I did? No. And go through what I went through? Hell no. But I see how when I went down into the depths of suffering, like I've been in the car deciding if I want to live or die, and genuinely like, what's the fucking point of any of this anymore? And I've been to that place, and I found a reason to keep going, and I found a story, and I found a place. It makes me unstoppable, right? And I have a Facebook community, the Unstoppable Mindset, because it's not that I'm right? But I'm going to learn and figure it out. I'm not going to let it go because there's something here for me still to experience. There's still a curiosity inside me to learn, to grow, to contribute. And how can I do this easier? How can I do this faster? How can I do this better? Biggest room in the world, room for improvement. So it's like, I'm still here because I have a greater thing that's pulling me, right? And I would never have found that if I hadn't had that abuse that took me the way that it took me.
Mhm.
And it made me, because like when I teach martial arts, when I teach personal safety, it's you walk into a room, and when I was younger and I was still in my damage, I had to know for my own safety all the exit and entry points, all the dominant personalities. I had to have an assessment of the whole room. So I was very much like a cat. Cats, the thing they need first is safety because they are scavengers. They're not apex predators. They're very much on the periphery. And so, why is it when you go to a party, the cat hangs out with the person who hates cats? Because that's the safest person for the cat. Because everyone else is, hey, kitty, kitty, kitty. The cat's like, get the fuck off me. What are you doing? Right? Cats usually don't like directed energy. Dogs do. Dogs are like, oh my God, I love that. Touch me more. I love it. This is the greatest day of my life. Are you kidding me? You're the most amazing person I've ever met. Let me sniff your everybody. And it's like, cats are like, get the off me. Like they can feel energy up to, 100 yards, 100 meters away. Like they can feel personalities. And
Mhm.
so the person who hates cats, they're like, oh, I like you. You leave me alone. You don't talk to me. You're safe. And so it's like, if you just observe, right? And so that was kind of what happened. My home, my parents were amazing, and they like did their best to live their faith. They had no idea what I had been through. And when I was younger, you guys are just stupid. You're like
Mhm.
so dumb and you're so easy to manipulate. And I can just tell you a portion of the truth and you'll leave me alone because at the time I believed I was worthless. So you're stupid for loving me, obviously. You're a horrible judge of character because I'm nobody to hang around with. I'm nobody important. And my self-worth was so, 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 so low. And they had no way to really understand or explain it. Like my mom knew I had changed, sort of. When I was 14, she was like, what happened? You used to be so nice when you were 4.
Mhm.
And you either get a loving response or a cry for help. And so that was a cry for help because she didn't understand. However, because I was in my own stuff, I took that as an attack. And I took that as you loved me more when I was 4 than you do at 14, when I was less capable, less able to make my own decisions, less able to make my own thoughts. You don't like this version of me. You don't love this version of me. You love the 4-year-old. And so we were in the kitchen and I was doing the dishes and I was just being a complete asshole. And she was like, what happened at 4? You were so much nicer. And I said, I can kill him, deal with it. And I stormed off. So she gave me a cry for help and I hit her back with a scream for help. And we totally missed each other. And it was just where I was at and how I received it.
Mhm.
So what we say, that's something. What the other person receives is everything.
Mhm.
And they might receive nothing of what we said in the slightest. They only received how what we said made them feel. And because of how they feel, now they're running off their emotion and they're on the warpath. So you either get a loving response or a cry for help. So if it's not a warm, big, happy response, you activated something in them that's unresolved. They are reacting to you. That awareness, you now have a choice to add fuel to that fire and fight, or take a step back and just, I don't know, we're not friends, or create a container, create space in this moment to just be present and go, hold on, that's a lot of energy. That was never my intention. I think I just did something. I stepped on a landmine. What's going on for you? I want to understand this because we're not in the same reality right now. And I'm not making you wrong for that. I'm trying to understand.
Mhm.
And now we've created this moment that we can be open with each other. I call it raw, real, open, honest instead of vulnerable. But it's how can I be open with you to like get to the real stuff because this isn't okay. Like I did something here because we were moving a direction and now we suddenly pivoted. That's fantastic feedback. I'm sorry. What's going on?
Mhm.
I need to play catch up, I think. Right. And it's all self ownership of the experience versus you don't listen to me, you don't respect me, you don't care about me. It's like I didn't say that stuff. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, 100%. Like this is really interesting because, you know, I've been always like when it comes to my childhood and so on. I've been always this type of shy kid. But I was it's very interesting. I was shy when it comes to or like introverted, people would say. Um, but I was so active all the time. Like I've been doing like so many, so much like just doing anything that it could come up to me. Like literally like running around, like playing football or doing that, or just doing some total bullshits outside, like just figuring out the world, right? And but it came up like my parents always been telling me like you are too nice, you are too nice. And I don't know where that even come from. Like you're too nice that I'm like that I behave well. That's how they figure out that I'm too nice, or I didn't really get the point pretty much. Like why do you think that people like think that you because I think you experience something very like very similar to that point when you said like that people been thinking like that you are nice and
Yeah.
like well behaved and so on. So where like do you think there is something to do about like how we see ourselves, like the
Mhm.
self-worth? Like okay, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, because like, okay, you're too nice. All right,
Mhm,
cool. According to who? According to what
mhm,
standard? And what does that even mean? You're too nice for me. You're too nice for how you treat people you're going to be taken advantage of, right? You
mhm,
said your parents are working three jobs. They're working really hard,
mhm,
right? And usually people who are having to work multiple jobs, they very often feel like, it's easy for people to take advantage of each other. A lot of people are predators. A lot of people are takers. So you got to be tough, right? So I'll give you an example. Is I was at a leadership camp and I was there as a coach and I was supporting a lot of teenagers and one of the kids like everyone knew him in the camp, just very funny, very a lot of laughter, kind of an overweight kid, used humor to deflect and to de-escalate. And he and I were talking one time and like he doesn't feel like his dad loves him. And I was like, that's interesting because he spent the money to send you to this camp. Well, yeah, because he doesn't want me around. That's interesting. Tell me more. And so, his dad's always angry, very judgmental. He's always pushing him, always yelling at him, always trying to he's trying to make me be something I'm not. Interesting. Tell me a little about your grandfather. Oh, well, grandfather's not around because he's always working. I'm like, really? Your grandfather is still working? Hmm. And so as we began to unpack, grandfather was never around. So dad kind of had to raise himself. And dad works a lot of tough jobs. So what if, and I asked the kid this, I said, what if your dad is loving you unconditionally, but he was given not a high standard, he was given a low standard because his dad wasn't around. So he's trying to be more in your life. At the same time, he realizes you're very thoughtful and you're funny and you're playful. And for your dad, people take advantage. I'm not going to be around to protect my son forever, so I got to make my son strong. So if your dad had a half-eaten apple and you said you were hungry, all he can give you is the half-eaten apple. That's it. He's giving you the food out of his mouth. He's giving you the best that he has. And then you get mad and say, well, I don't want a half-eaten apple. I want a whole apple. And he's like, well, I don't have a whole apple, but I want a whole apple. Well, screw you, kid. You're going to take what I give you and you're going to be happy about it because this is what I have. So fucking take it. And the kid's eyes go wide. And he's like, I'm like, dad can only give you, what if he's loving you unconditionally, but he's just got a half-eaten apple? Now you have a choice how to receive his guidance, his feedback. Dad, I think you're looking out for me and I think you want the best for me, but the way you're going about it, I feel like I'm being pushed into a corner and I can't breathe. If you change the conversation instead of, Dad, why don't you listen to me? Dad, be nicer to me. If you describe the experience you're going through, he now has new information to make new choices, right? And this kid's like 14, 15 years old. No one's talked to him like this before. And it's like, I'm not making your dad wrong and I'm not making you wrong, but I'm listening for the story that you're telling me and the story that dad might be saying and the story that grandfather might be saying. But the story we tell creates the game that we play, and the game creates the impact. And now we have a choice. Do we use that as feedback or do we use that as justification? I'm going to push harder on this game because I'm right, which is a story, right? Or I'm making you, my actions, the things I'm doing makes you feel this way. Oh my God, that's not my intent. That's not what I want. And now with new information, we can create a new story and then we can create a new game because it's none of this is determined. It's not like you're born
Yeah.
and you got a rule book and because of that, this is who I have to be and how I have to be. No, we're influencing each other and we're co-creating stories and co-creating games consciously or unconsciously. But when you begin to see the pattern, when someone says pattern, think game. When someone says strategy, think game because it's a game. And a game is what? GAME, giving all my everything, giving all my energy, giving all my excitement, giving all my experience, giving all my education, giving all my, we can play with the E, but giving all my everything. That's what a game is because games are life and death, right? Because the ultimate conclusion of your game is either your life expands or your life contracts.
Interesting. Okay, that's really powerful. Yeah, I love it because like we've been why did you decide or why you choose to go with, martial arts?
uh, because I felt disempowered and weak. And I had always had an affinity. I'd always been attracted to Chinese metaphysics, like Japanese initially, but then as I studied Japanese culture, a lot of it was influenced by Chinese culture. So I went back into the sources, and Buddhism and Taoism spoke to me a lot more. I was raised Roman Catholic, and my dad and I have some really awesome conversations, but
Mm-hmm.
he's coming at it from Catholicism because he's a deacon and he's like ordained clergy and he's a cool guy. But then I come at it from military and fighting and Chinese culture and Buddhism and martial arts. I come at it from a whole different perspective, and yet we both see a bunch of stuff eye to eye. Because for my dad, like the core of the Christian message for my dad is in Romans 10 to 12, which is the law of love is written in the heart of all people, and you will be judged in the afterlife by the standard of how loving you were. Because every great religion at its core is about love, and we're all part of the same thing. And if we can meet each other at that place, because like God didn't create the different religions, people did, and it's like spring, summer, fall, winter, which is the best season. Well, if you're a farmer, you don't get a choice.
Mm-hmm.
You got to do the spring stuff in the spring and the summer stuff in the summer and the fall stuff in the fall and the winter stuff in the winter because you got to harmonize with the reality. And we as human beings, we can choose our preferences,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if you want to be fully engaged, Zig Ziglar said it best. If you want to get everything life has to offer, you have to deal with all of life.
Mm-hmm.
And so, different religions slice and dice things in certain sequences or certain priorities. But if the goal is that we're all part of the same thing and we all are called to be love to each other, different cultures will create different structures of how to do that. Just like every culture that produces grain has dumplings. But
Mm-hmm.
Chinese shumai is not Southern chicken and dumplings. Like is dumpling like something stuffed and then it's fried, or is it something that's in a batter, or is it something that like samosas is not shumai, but they're both delicious. And life is too short for bad food, bad marriage, or bad business. So like eat the yummy stuff, guys. Like appreciate the food that's in every culture, appreciate the beauty that's in every religion, and look for the commonalities because that's the human heart aching for something greater versus no, you have to follow this one specific line, and if you don't, you're not for us, you're against us, and we have to kill you. Where's God going? You know what's cool is I made all of you and you guys should kill each other to see who's right. Like, how does that make any sense? And yet we raise our kids that it's like, oh, there's only one right way. No, there's lots. 2 plus 2, 5 minus 1, 2 times 2, 8 divided by 2. Which one's the right way? Like, there's lots. So why get stuck on just one approach as the only spring, summer, fall, winter? We got multiple approaches here. What happens, happens, and in the meaning we give it, that's our story, that's our choice. If we're aware. right? And it's always like I have a 5-step framework and we begin with awareness, right? It is the 5 knuckle death punch coaching framework for relationship mastery. And it starts with awareness, right?
Yep.
Because you can't deal with anything if you're not aware of it. So that's why I hate when like Tony Robbins one time said that there's no victims, just volunteers. I'm like, excuse me, I was 5 years old. I did not volunteer to be sexually abused. That was not, no. So for him to say that, on some level, he's not wrong. But for him to say that to someone who's still in the weeds of their pain, like that's not a fair statement
Mhm.
because that's not,
They don't
you
understand
don't,
probably, or like they don't get it, right?
well, you can't tell someone else's story for them.
Yep.
Like I will never, I understand how what happened to me is this big gift and how I unpacked it and all the rest. But I would never go to someone who is still processing what happened to them and say, "Oh, this is a gift for you." It's like, who the
Right.
fuck,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Right? My family just died, and you're telling me that's a gift. I just had someone violate my personal boundaries. That's a gift. Like, what kind of monster are you?
Yep.
And it's really it's a story that's it's too big and it's a mismatch. And it's like you don't get to decide the meaning for my own life. How dare you?
Mm.
So there's no victims. There's just volunteers. That's not.
Mhm.
Now, once you're aware of the pattern in the story, and then you choose to continue to tell the story versus choosing to get out of the pit, that's a different thing.
Mhm.
But that's a little more context, a little more nuanced. But to start with this, this statement like that, it's like, oh, it's a bold statement. It's like, yeah, it's an asshole statement to someone who's still hurting.
So how somebody can get into that stage, like stage, a stage that they literally can, take it from the other side. That.
Oh, okay. So there's 5 levels of growth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Level one is, to put it as simply as possible, level one is fuck this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's you're in the shit, your life is on fire, you're in the trauma, you're in the war, you're in the battle, like literally your bombs are falling and blowing up your friends and family. This is not the time to talk about personal growth. This is survival mode, right? So when you're in the pit, your life is actively on fire. This is where people get addicted to drugs. This is where people numb themselves. This is where people do very bad things, rob, rape, murder, kill, because anything to survive, because you're stuck in a survival mode. So level one, you're in the pit, fuck this. Like just fuck everything I'm going through, fuck it all. Level two is fuck that. You're out of the pit, but you're on the edge. And everything you're doing is to not fall back into the pit.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is where like a lot of quote unquote men's work is. And it's a lot of power and dominance and control and don't be taken advantage of. Take advantage of other people. Don't let them take advantage of you. Don't be a bitch. Don't be a da, da, da. So it's a lot of rules. It's a lot of fear. It's a lot of scarcity. Those two pieces, they get locked and they feed off each other, right? Look at someone like Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate, some of the stuff he says is not wrong, but the way he says it, it's weaponized, it's demeaning, it's dismissive, it hurts other people. He tears apart women. He's got a very manipulative view of people in life because he's locked in that fuck this, fuck that dynamic. And it makes him a lot of money, but also makes him a lot of enemies,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so but he wants that because he's in his wound, he's in his this power, he's not in a warm big happy place. Loving response, cry for help. Every time I hear anything he like pushes, it's like those are all cries for help. You're still grieving, something happened to you, you haven't processed it yet, but he's here, right? Then there's a shift at level three. We see a larger potential, we see the positive side, we see life, love could be easier. The light at the end of the tunnel for one and two, the light at the end of the tunnel is an oncoming train. It's going to kill me. Level three, four, five, the light at the end of the tunnel is a bigger, brighter, bolder future. And it's like, oh, I could be. And when we start to aspire, we start to see something drawing us, moving towards the light, moving towards the bigger, moving towards the expansion. But I don't know how to get there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of struggle with, do I deserve to have it or not? Do I deserve to be there, right? Because why is it people are sometimes given everything to succeed and then they still implode? Because part of them doesn't believe they deserve the success, right? They feel guilty, right? Anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt. Guilt. I'm too much. I'm not enough. I don't deserve this. That's the self-sabotaging games. So we need to unplug that. And I've got a process in my clients where we like blow that out once and for all. That never comes back. But level one, level two is all this scarcity and negativity. Level three, it could be there's something else. I had a taste of it. I saw a sight of it. Level four is now you can get to that higher level, but you can't sustain it. So this is where people go to workshops or seminars or trainings or courses, or they do something that's like, oh, in that moment with those people, I could be at that level. But then they go back to their reality at home, and it's my house and it's the food and it's the people and the environment.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden they fall back down again because we become the company. We rise or fall to the level of our peer group, right? The people we associate with, the people we hang out with, they are either going to help us or hurt us. And it's not that they're like trying not to, right? Because a lot of times people who are entrepreneurs, we're building a business. Our families don't know what the hell that is. Like that's scary. I've got a buddy of mine. He does 8 figures a year, and his mom is still waiting for him to like get a real job. He bought her house and paid cash, like just wrote a check and done. Bought the house, paid the whole thing off, but she's waiting for him to get a real job. He's doing about 8 million a year, net, not gross, right? But to her model of the world, that's not that's risky. You know, get a good job, be safe, get a pension. And he's like, I'm financially independent and I am my pension. Like I have my own economic engine, but she doesn't get it. And like he and I had some conversations about like she's never going to, and there's no amount of you can explain it. Just agree with her and go, yeah, you're right, mom. You know, if this thing doesn't work out, I've always got a fallback though. So I'm gonna try it at least another maybe another year. And so now, rather than like my mom doesn't understand me, she doesn't love me, she doesn't respect me, she doesn't da da da. Well, you can tell that story, or you can meet her in her model of the world and just like, yeah, what am I gonna do, mom? You know, I'm not a really good employee. You make it fun for yourself because she's never gonna get it. Let it go. Do you need her to get it? Well, no, not really. Does she love you? Well, yeah. Do you love her? Well, yeah. Do you guys have fun together? Well, yeah. All right, cool. What's the problem? I understand you, dude. You're amazing. The hell, right?
Uh-huh.
She can't give you what she doesn't have. She doesn't get it. She never's gonna move on.
That's
But
very
that's that
interesting.
level. Well, that's that level four.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we as entrepreneurs sometimes hurt ourselves because we want the people we care about to get it, and they never will, and it's
Yeah.
okay.
Like most
They
of
don't.
like most of the entrepreneurs do.
Yeah,
Like when it comes to,
yeah,
how many times like how many like how many times I had the conversation with them, like with people about
yeah,
that. Literally, like,
yeah.
we
What are you
talk to
doing?
our parents, we talk to our like, close ones, and they can't, like, they don't get it. But and then like you hate those small talk conversations about, like, not meaningful conversation that is not like a, it doesn't bring anything to, because like I hate wasting my time like crazy, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And that's like one of the values that I hold, for example, on my, like, on my side. And then like how to operate and make the balance with them, if there is even a balance, that, like, you know what I
No,
mean.
there is. There is because it's just you realize that the practical outcome of time with them is not a business measurable. It's a social intangible.
Mhm.
Because if your path is to get married and have kids, you are now going to have more stories of your family history, of your family values, of your family vision to share from, your grandparents. They had to work 3 jobs. And your dad, I mean, as an entrepreneur, technically I'm working like 15 jobs if you think about it, between sales and marketing and operations and fulfillment and team management. I mean, there's 5 jobs right there. So I'm really kind of the same person as them, only I leverage my time to create multiples of effort so that I'm getting multiple dollars back instead of single digits, right? And I'm creating assets that run themselves and I can run ads and do this and this. So it's kind of the same thing as them, but just slightly different. And I never would have realized, I never would have had this work ethic without them, right? And I never would have wanted to be as involved as a parent to you without them. And now they have the ability to be more involved grandparents because I can make sure they have the finances to come visit us and come do this and come do this. Right. And so now you can begin to pivot that. You have your business circle and the things you do there, but your family time is a coming to grounds with your legacy because you are your parents' legacy.
Mhm.
And you begin to see the generational movement. And now all of a sudden the need to produce a specific result begins to change because it's not a business measurable, tangible KPI type of deal. It's a mental, emotional, social goal,
Mhm.
and truly seeing who my parents were without the need for validation because they can't give you what they don't have, right? I've got a client that wants her mom's approval, except that her mom wasn't the boy her dad wanted and wasn't the girly girl her mom wanted. So if your mom has never felt accepted by her parents, how is she supposed to accept you? Bing, light bulb.
Mhm.
Can't give what you don't have, right?
Makes
And so
sense.
this is all in that level 4. I can get there, but I can't maintain it. Level 5, you're there. That compelling future, that goal, that expansion. And the real truth is when you get to 5, you see another 3, 4, 5 you couldn't see before because you got to the edge of that mountain, or you got to that hill of that horizon. There's more horizons, there's more growth, but you can't perceive or realize that stuff is there until you get to 5, and then you begin to see there's another and another, right? So yesterday I was on a call with some guys who are they're in the institutional investing space. So they put together 100 million to 300 million dollar deals. And they've been on calls since 9 a.m. And I was talking to them at like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And one of them said, hey, could we maybe push this to Tuesday? Because he's kind of cooked. And I didn't know he was cooked. And I was like, well, I mean, I can make that work. I'd really like, because I'm looking to find some investors for him, and they need like, it's a $5 million buy-in. And I just so happen to get a 5% finder's fee for or originating that investor. So I get $250,000 on an introduction. Not a bad gig, among other things, right? This is the power of network, just saying.
Yeah,
But
100%.
but
Yeah.
but for the two of them, they've just been grinding all day and they're on phone calls all day. And then we got to talking, and the first time I'm getting to meet one of them. And so I'm like talking a little bit about what I do and geeking in a couple ways. And he said something, and I was explaining, because I've got to understand, how does the deal work? How do I explain this to potential investors to like open the conversation to then connect them into the person who's going to, deal with the next step. And so he's telling me some stuff and I'm feeding it back to him, and he's going, whoa, that sounds really good. I'm like, thank you. Because, I've been talking to people a long time, running my mouth a long time. But he said that that was the best call they had all day long because they felt re-energized.
Right.
And I'm like, because that's my normal. Because this right now, the things we're talking, this is where I love to be.
Uh-huh.
But not everybody can handle being at this place. And this is like when the Ted Lasso show came out, I had a bunch of people message me and say, you've got to watch this show. It's like talking to you. Except I'm not as Pollyanna as he is. I'm not as like positive in the light because I've dealt with my darkness and I've been some very ugly places. And so I'm not as, and that's part of like, you look at the arc of the story, and part of his challenge is he's so G chipper howdy because he doesn't want to deal with the loss that he faced. And so some of him is masking and projecting. And I'm like, no, I'm positive for choice because my story, because my decisions, but I'm also a realist, and I'm more than capable to commit violence if needed because like some stuff needs to end. Then let's go after it. Let's fine. Right. And so it's a both and.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so these 5 levels of growth, go back to the question that started this whole loop, which was, there's no victims. There's no victims. There's volunteers. You can't say that to somebody who's in the pit and their life is on fire and they're actively being abused. Like, you go to a woman who's being abused in a domestic situation and tell her, well, you're volunteering to be abused. No, she's not. She's trying to survive the unsurvivable. Now, 5, 10, 15, 20 years later, she's done the work. She's out of the thing. She's built herself stronger. She may say, I volunteered for a lot of the ways that I was treated because I didn't have the self-confidence because I did, but she can say that with awareness because she's out of the shit. When they are in it and you say to them, there are no victims, there's only volunteers. Oh, you're saying I'm volunteering to continue to be abused. Fuck you. Like that makes the victims feel like this is my fault in some way, shape, or form. That's not a great, warm, big, happy to motivate growth versus this is not your fault, right? You were given a set of stories and a set of games that made this sort of thing seem reasonable. And it is also monstrous, and you don't deserve it. We need to get you out of it. See, it can be a both and. It can be both, it's not your fault, and it can be your responsibility. It can be your choice. Because what is responsibility? The ability to respond. But to respond requires resources. It requires you to be bigger than this moment. And if you're depleted, all you can do is react because that's all you have available is instinct. To respond, you've got to have more resources, got to have more capacity, you got to have more capability, right? When your parents were working 3 jobs And then, oh, the water heater goes out. They're not going to respond. Oh, the water heater goes out, and what's our best option? Let's evaluate. It's shit, we need water. Who do we know that can fix this? And they may buy a secondhand water heater because it's cheaper. It might not last that long. It doesn't really fix the problem, but it's good enough for now. Keep moving. Because working three jobs, I don't have the time to truly solve the problem. Put some duct tape on it, spit on it, smack it, and move on, because that's the reality they're in, because they're in that fuck me, fuck, fuck this, fuck that dynamic, right? And now you grew up watching that. You have a different standard. Oh my God, mom and dad, I'm so sorry you had that journey, but thank you, because it gave me the fuel and the fire to create something different. And as my economic engine builds, I can now do something better that you guys don't have to,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
sure.
You can enjoy.
But I think, like, okay, yeah, if that would be happening, um, at that level, like, when that's been happening, for them or to them, like, this is literally like the way that you how you accepted it, right? Because some people can blame them all their lives, right? Because and then, like, there are those people, most of the time, like, the self-aware and all of that, like, they love the growth and so on, to actually, uh, they they try to see the perspective from different ways, right? Because, like, I'm very big believer on, like, ownership on everything. Like, what you do, you have everything, what you, basically, like, agreed on, that it's your fault, and you have the power over it, and you can change it, right? Because if you don't do it, you will always be stuck there, because, like, you're gonna blame the circumstances, all the things that happened to you, not for you, right? But I get
Right.
the point what you try to say, or what, when you explaining it, that
Mm-hmm.
way, that you cannot, accepted it when it happening, in that direct moment, because you're trying to solve it first. But you cannot, like, because, like, it doesn't make sense to even, like, um you know it would be really, really harsh to think that, like, yeah, it's all my fault, and, like, put yourself
Mm-hmm.
down, and, like, you literally start doubting yourself and putting, this way. But from the perspective, when you grow through it, or grew through it, then you can see it from, when that circumstance passed, then you can observe it and, like, make your decision. Okay, that was something wanted to tell me, like, the circumstances that
Mm-hmm.
happened, this is something that should taught me something, and now I can take it from that perspective, for my advantage, and do something
Yes.
about it, right? That's what you
Yeah.
wanted to say, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's because it's a new season, and so what were the lessons of the old season, and how can I improve and have better seasons?
Makes
Yeah,
sense. Yeah.
because this when you say season, now you're talking about period of time,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and so it's like yeah, because you got to get in the moment of crisis, you got to deal what you got to deal with. But the story you carry determines your resources. Because if you say this is a problem, it's a problem. But if you say it's a challenge, it's a challenge. But if you say it's an opportunity, it's an opportunity. But if you say it's a blessing, it's a blessing. Because whatever you say is what it is to yourself.
Mhm.
Because all stories are true, only some of them actually happened. So
Mhm.
if you could choose the meaning, what would you choose? Wait, I can do that? Yes, at any moment you can just decide plot twist. You just say it, say plot twist, and then new interpretation.
Makes sense. Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
This is powerful. Yeah.
yeah. It's fun.
Okay. Yeah. So, when it comes to the parenting punishing, I don't know how much time we have
Yeah.
still, but, like, let's talk about a little bit about this, because I experienced it. I don't know about you.
Me
I
too.
experienced it really a lot. Yeah, my like, that's the whole point. Like, anyway, like, you heard the story, when my parents been working three, jobs at the same, like, at the time, to literally bring money and food, on the table. But once they been at home and I've been able to spend time with them, they usually be super strict, and, like, for example, beating me just because I
Hmm.
didn't do what they told me to do, or I was, like, always, like, trying to be with my friends outside having fun and so on. So, like, there was some, things that. But then also, like, I would I see it from the perspective, that my dad was probably he was raised the same way pretty much, right, with my
Hmm. Hmm.
grandparents. Um, and that's what he knows, and that's only the thing
Hmm.
that he knows. So probably that is the only way how he knows how to raise his kid and so on. Would you do you like what
Yeah.
is your observation on that actually?
Yeah. So we can only give what we have,
Mm-hmm.
and we can try to do better, but our better, it's like how do we love our kids the best way possible? We're gonna love them to the best of our ability. So I had a kung fu brother of mine, and his dad never spanked him. But when his dad, like when he messed up, his dad would make him bend over and hold his own ankles while his dad stood behind him and yelled at him. And it's like, that's weird. And as an adult, he and his dad were talking about it. And his dad said, yeah, my dad used to beat me unconscious. And there were times when you messed up and I was so mad at you. And I was so scared that I was going to knock you out or I was going to hurt you or I was going to kill you. So I had you stand with your hands, bend over and hold your ankles because I was laughing at you, so I didn't hit you, right? But for my buddy, I got my ass in the air, I got my hands on my knee, on my ankles, standing there while my dad's yelling at me. It's scary, but because the context, right? For the kid, the context is my dad's yelling at me and it's scary. It's this, but for the dad, my dad beat me unconscious. He put hands on me, he punched me, he kicked me, and the level of hurt that caused me you will never experience. So I'm protecting you from the adult's point of view. From the kid's point of view, I don't like this. It's not my favorite thing. I don't want to do this. So now he's going to change his standards if he has kids. But now knowing what his grandfather did to his dad, because he's like, Grandpa, no, he's so nice. It's like, yeah, now he wasn't then, right? And so what happens is when you have people who feel like we can't waste resources, we can't waste time, right? Lower socioeconomic scale, what's the fastest way to get your kids to comply is violence, right? It's a form of kinesthetic communication, but watch a little kid. I'm trying to get your attention. I'm trying to get your attention. You're ignoring me, so I hit you. You take my toy and I say give it back and you say no. And I say please and you say no or you ignore me. Then we go kinesthetic. We use our bodies to communicate because if you look at like the study of human development and culture, right? Language is only about 40,000 years old, we think, 40 to 60,000. Look at people under stress when they're under a lot of psychological load, a lot of pressure. One of the first things to drop is language. We get so stressed out, we lose the ability to speak. If you're pushing a ton of weight, right? You're lifting weights, you're squatting, you're deadlifting. Try to have an intelligent conversation while you're lifting 280 pounds, 300 pounds, 100, 200 kilos. Try to have an intelligent conversation in the midst of that. No, you like everything is focused on the body tense and hold and go. So if somebody's lifestyle, if they're day to day, they feel that same level of tension and stress, and then their kid spills the milk or wastes eggs, like that was half a day's wages. What the fuck are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Right? But then I can talk to you. You're not getting it. You're still wasting it. So then I gotta put the fear of God into you. I gotta use pain to force compliance because it is the fastest way to affect behavior. Is it healthy? Is it sustainable? Is it wise? That's all the luxury of survival, right? You only get to decide that was bad if you survive this moment, right? And we as men, if we run in the like masculine is protect and provide, protect comes first.
Mm-hmm.
So we will yell at our kids to stop yelling. We will beat our kids to stop beating, right? We will stop the violence. When our kids are fighting with each other, we come in and grab the kids and rip them apart. So we use violence to stop the violence, right? Because I will protect you from yourself first. Then I will worry about how you feel about it second,
Yep.
right? So under tension, under pressure, what
Mm-hmm.
are we going to do? We're going to stop the threat. And so my kid wasting resources, my kid not listening, kid gets up and two kids are playing and one of them kicks the other and leaves and says, hey, you need to come back and apologize. I'm not gonna. And they walk out of the room. What are you going to do? Are you going to take care of the kid who's crying and actively hurting? Or are you going to go chase the disrespectful one? Because those are two different experiences. And if I go after the kid that's disrespectful, right? What did I just tell the kid who's hurting?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody cares about my pain, right? I put authority and the disrespect, quote unquote disrespect, because you can't disrespect me without my permission. I have to care about your opinion. I have to need your approval, right? If I don't care, you just look like an idiot. Oh,
Yeah.
go ahead, walk away. That's so mature. I'm gonna take care of you first. I'm gonna deal with you second. But I'm gonna get myself in a more resourceful place to deal with you second because I don't want to have this ego battle. Because then what happens? I make you wrong, and now we're fighting, and then it's like, well, you don't love me, and it's a whole bunch of other stuff. No, I do love you. That's why I have standards for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you're a jerk about it, right? But how open is an adult going to be to have a kid to say you're a jerk about it in the middle of being a jerk to their kid? You disrespectful shit. Oh, bam, right? That's how that stuff happens. So, and not to make any of that wrong because they are patterns, but as we understand the pattern, we now have awareness to make new choices.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't have to yell at my kid in the moment. You know what? I want to yell at you, but 5 minutes. Everyone, just 5 minutes, neutral corners, then we'll talk. You can make that a family rule, right? Because you get to create the family rules. You could just make it up and go, you know what? I'm not going to yell at you. I'm going to go cool off.
It's really interesting because I don't have kids right yet, but
Yeah.
I would never, you know, I would never use physical, punishment. Never, just because of what I've experienced. Never,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
like I've been
And,
punished a lot, like literally, even like when you have, I don't know what is the correct word for it, but like when you have the for example the wooden spoon that you use for, like in our country we have like this type of traditions that we, for example, killing once I don't know, once and a half year we've been killing a pig, and then we are cooking the pig and everything like that. So it's like massive
Mhm.
bowl where you are like cooking the pig, and all of that, like, and making really nice food from it and so on.
Mhm.
And there is like the whole, like a huge, like a pedal that you literally like
Yeah.
moving it. So I've
Yeah.
been
It's
I've
like a,
been
it's like
beaten
an
with
oar for a
yeah,
boat.
I've
Yeah.
been beaten with
Yeah.
the the pedal basically. But and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
like, it's yeah. Sometimes my
Yeah.
kids even like they even literally break it on that.
Yeah. Oh
But
yeah, no,
but
that totally, yeah.
yeah.
So there's a part of you, you have a story. I'm never gonna do this to my kids.
Uh-huh.
But then the game, right? The reality is once you have kids, then you'll find out, are you gonna hold to that or are you gonna go to your default? Because our instincts are driven by our experiences. And
Mhm.
so you're gonna feel that. That's why it's like sometimes as a parent, you love your kids, and then you start yelling at them, and inside your head you're like, shut up, stop, I don't want to be my parents. Like you're telling yourself to stop, but you're running a pattern, you're playing a game that you experience because you haven't replaced it,
Mhm.
right? And that's where podcasts, books, workshops, getting new experiences, you now give yourself other examples of behavior, other examples of conversation, other examples of choices to be, so that you can feel that tension, you can feel that, like, I just want to hit my kid to just fucking listen to me, and you can say it.
Mhm.
Everything in me is saying I should hit you to make you listen, and I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to go cool down. We're going to figure this out because I love you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Right? You can choose that pattern because you've replaced that old one with something that's better. It's more aligned with who and what you are. That's how we do
100%.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, is we step into those places and decide versus hide from it, or, well, I'm just not going to be that way. Okay, but how? Because it's the story is why, the
Yep.
game is and what and how is where your power is. Okay, I heard what you said. This is why it's important to you, but what are you doing different? How are you doing it different? And that's where I come in as a consultant to help get to that changing and iterating the what's and hows to find something more sustainable faster, because I don't have your stories to blind me. I can just be curious and go, a person with that pattern would probably go along these lines or could go along these lines. What else could they do? And I can work out all these different little branch chain potentials of where we could like tweak it out. And after doing this for 30 years, I got lots and lots and lots and lots of opportunities to pivot.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because yeah, when what do I wanted to share? It was right to the points of that, um I never heard of my parents actually. It was really interesting because like what you just said is literally like landing to me on like crazy because like I never heard of my parents like telling me they love me or something like that, and like probably that
Mhm.
was the reason why they like my grandparents did never told them to because like when I'm thinking about it right now, like this is really what is happening for for them or to them
Right.
basically, right?
Yeah. Well, I showed you I loved you by the way I fed you and took care of you
Yep.
and paid
Yep.
for this and paid for that. So it's a lot of acts of service or gifts.
But no
But if
verbal
I
way,
need
basically, like
but
saying
if
it.
but if I yeah, if I need words, like I know you guys love me, can you just say it?
Yeah, yeah,
And if they're not a words person, it's going to feel really weird and meaningless. It's like why should I say this?
yep, yep.
Because I need to hear it. It's
Totally.
and that's raw, real, open, honest. You just hold that, being able to sit in that silence and that uncomfort and say, because I need to hear it.
Yeah.
And now
Ah,
they have a choice.
okay.
With new awareness, they have new choice.
That's interesting. Okay, I've never thought about it this way. Okay, that's pretty cool.
Sweet.
Yeah. All right, cool. Thank you so much, brother. Well, I have like
My
a bunch
pleasure,
of more
man.
questions, but it's like already we are here over an hour, and with that internet crash also. So that's anyway.
Yeah.
So
We
I
can
think
always do
I'll
a part two.
yeah yeah for yeah 100% we can. So I'm gonna end it this way. So where people can find you, connect with
The best
you.
two places, Facebook and YouTube. And LinkedIn I'm moving towards.
Yeah.
But I am the only Jeremy Roadruck on the internet. What I would say, because we're talking about parenting, is go check out Your Best Child Ever. Is This Game Worth Winning? The Owner's Manual of Children, not a maintenance manual, because I wrote this before I had kids, so I didn't like change diapers. But this is all about how to create win-win games. And it says right here, there's no risk because it's the only parenting book in the world with a money back guarantee. Because like I wrote this when I was single. I wasn't dating. I didn't have kids, but I had 17 and a half years of teaching martial arts. I had 25 years of personal development because I had been unpacking and working through all this stuff for so long. And I wrote Your Best Child Ever because in my Kung Fu school, I saw parents with a lot of love, but I saw families with a lot of friction. Because if you've got a kinesthetic kid, they got to do the thing. And I have an auditory parent who wants to talk about the thing, we're going to have a mismatch and a conflict all the time because the parents want to talk and the kid wants to feel and do. And it's
Mhm.
like, why can't you sit still and listen to me? And the kid's gone because they feel like the parents don't care. They feel like I'm not important to you. They feel like, because feeling is what drives that kid. And people who run in their kinesthetic feeling senses, they tend to talk a little slower. They tend to breathe a little slower. And that's important because we can only think about as fast as we talk.
Mhm.
And then you get somebody who's auditory and somebody who likes to see the thing and they go really fast. They're really animated. They talk with their hands really quick. They go really fast. But you get somebody who's visual with somebody who's kinesthetic. The kinesthetic person's only getting every second or third word. It's like, oh my God, that word vomit is too fast. I can't keep up. Right. And so it's like we mismatch. And so how do we fix that? How do we align? And so that's why I wrote Your Best, is This Game Worth Winning? My dad read a book when I was a kid called Games People Play. And that book describes all kinds of dysfunctional games and how to break them. What it didn't do was here's how to play a better game. It was just here's how to stop the dysfunction. Okay, but that doesn't automatically mean you now know how to do it healthy. So when I was younger and I was like going through something and I was like struggling, whatever, my dad would, well, here's what you should have done. Well, yeah, but there was extenuating circumstance. There was more context. He's like, oh, well, then you should do this. Yeah, but there was also this other piece. Okay, you're playing the yes but game. Come back and talk to me when you want to be serious. Now, he was right. I was playing the yes but game, except that I was in the middle of it. And so for him to label my game is like, oh, you think you know me better than myself? Fuck you. So from 13 to 26, I didn't talk to my dad in any meaningful way because it was my understanding of him, my experience of him. You're going to judge me and tell me I'm wrong no matter what I do. So enjoy talking to yourself. And it was my story based on our interactions. That's not what he wanted. He wanted to be a good dad. He researched and read books to be a good dad. But there was no, here's how to play a good game. And so I wrote, Is This Game Worth Winning? Because everything we do is a game, right? All our behavior is designed to get energy positive or negative. We're going to motivate positive, manipulate negative, but all of our life is about energy. And so, because of that, here's how to create a game where I get to feel warm, big, and happy, and you get to feel warm, big, and happy. So, what if when we parent, it's win win or no deal? With the caveat, with the asterisks, occasionally shut up and do it is the thing because we don't have the time. Like, kid, I love you. I don't have time for this. Just shut up and do it. Now, you come back later and say to the kid, hey, I really appreciate the fact that when I said shut up and do it, you did. um, we didn't have the time. We had to get this done, this done, this done. We had to be in this place. We had to get these things done. I didn't have the bandwidth. I didn't have the time and space to really answer or to really. So I really appreciate the fact that you just like hauled ass and did the thing we needed to get done, kid. You're awesome. High five. Now, here's the reason why. Here's because at younger ages, kids don't process time the way we do as adults. Like their brains literally, you watch the way kids move in space, they crash into stuff because they're not thinking consequences. They're not projecting their behavior forward in time and space, which is normal developmental stuff. Like child psychology is only like 150 years old. Victorian England is what created childhood in Western culture. Because before that, kids would have jobs and they would work. And they ended up having like kids dying in the chimneys because the kids would go up to clean the chimney and get stuck and die. And it was like, we can't have this. And so Victorian child labor laws is kind of what created the understanding of now cognitive psychology and developmental psychology and the study of like children are massively different than adults. That all started because of Victorian England. So really this whole thing is not that old anyway. And so this is all about how do you create a win-win game? And we talk about self-control and focus and respect and self-discipline and self-confidence. Those are the first 5 games. And then we go into self-motivated, self-directed, successful, wealthy, wise, safe, healthy, and happy. And how do you create those games? And it's the chapters are 4 to 6 to 8 pages, but there's actions in here. There's things to do as a family. There's stuff to figure out, to have conversations to elevate the parenting game. And as parents, there's some room for you to breathe in here and not be perfect and have all the answers either. It's okay to say, you know what? I don't know, kid. Let's go learn together. Like that's allowed. So I've got that. That I would recommend. It's on Audible as well. So if you want me in your head for 5.5 hours,
Yeah,
Merry
love
frickin'
it. Yeah,
Christmas.
yeah, love it, love it.
It's written the way I talk. So yeah, it's awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, love it. Wow, I didn't even know that that kids been literally like taking like adult lives from the beginning. Like, holy smokes, that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. In Western culture, which most of the world is now driven by, yeah, Victorian England established child labor laws. That's what began effectively childhood.
Wow. Okay, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. It's once you realize that, you're like, oh damn, it's only been 150 years
Yeah.
ish.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, brother. That was amazing. I love to listen to you. You are really really great speaker. Like what you
Thank
talk
you.
about is like super super powerful. Yeah, love it. Love
Thank
it.
you.
Cool.
This is my
Well,
normal.
yeah,
This is this is my everyday because I love this stuff. And this is
yeah.
what I do with my clients. Like, here's
There
how
is
we
a
unpack
bunch,
it.
yeah, yeah. There is a bunch of things that I would love to talk about. Like there is like anyways, like I have a really interesting, very similarly driven background when it comes to even like martial arts and so on. Like, so yeah, there is
Hmm.
like stuff that we could talk about. Anyway, well, we will probably do another episode or so, but for
I'm
now,
down.
thank you for yeah for your time. Thank you for being here, and for everybody who's listening. We will see you in the next one. Bye for now.